Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the core of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to demystify money, explore the fascinating and kind of surprising history of taxes, and look at how the wealthy use corporate structures and financial intelligence as an impenetrable shield. Let's just jump right in. So, let's start off with a question that might challenge everything you thought you knew. Is your house actually making you poorer? For decades, society has told us that buying a massive home is this guaranteed, incredibly safe investment. But the source material we're looking at today completely shatters that notion. It urges you to stop and really question if that huge mortgage is a true wealth builder or if it's actually a hidden wealth trainer keeping you trapped in what the author calls the rat race. To understand why, we have to look at the two paths framework, the poor dad mindset versus the rich dad mindset. The traditional advice, the poor dad approach, is to get a safe job, work incredibly hard, and save every penny you can. Sounds totally responsible, right? But the rich dad philosophy is entirely different. It's not about working for money, it's about making your money work for you. It's a fundamental shift in attitude, and it drives completely different proactive actions. The whole thing is summed up perfectly in this quote right here from the text. Rich parents don't tell their kids to work for money, but to make money work for them. Think about it. The problem with relying solely on a paycheck is that your time is strictly limited. You literally only have so many hours in a single day. But money? Money can work around the clock 24/7 without ever needing a coffee break or a vacation or sick leave. The wealthy understand that investing is how you multiply that money while you sleep. This fundamentally dismantles these deeply ingrained societal myths we've all grown up with. We're told a good job guarantees wealth, or that investing is only for the super rich. But relying on a single income stream from an employer is actually really dangerous, and it's heavily taxed. Plus, our traditional education system completely fails to prepare us for the reality of managing money, understanding taxes, or navigating the economy. It basically teaches us how to be good employees, not how to build true wealth. So to fix this lack of education, we have to start with a profound, yet incredibly simple definition. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. No complicated accounting jargon required at all. The wealthy achieve financial freedom because they focus obsessively on acquiring assets, while the middle class often buys liabilities, mistakenly believing they are assets. This contrast plays out in a very practical way in the real world. True assets, things like stocks, bonds, rental real estate, and businesses, these generate positive cash flow. Compare that to what a lot of people think are assets, but are actually liabilities. Luxury cars, consumer debt, and yes, even that large primary residence. Why? Because they require constant maintenance, property taxes, and cash outlays. The source stresses that buying a luxury car or a bigger house before you have the actual assets to pay for them is exactly what keeps people struggling financially. Which brings us to the ultimate test of true wealth. How many days could you live off the income from your assets? This completely redefines wealth. It is not about the size of your salary. It's a measure of time and freedom. You're financially independent only when the monthly income generated by your assets exceeds your monthly living expenses. At that point, you aren't forced to trade your precious time for money anymore. And this brings us to a really fascinating part of the source material, the wealth shield. To really grasp this, you kind of have to understand the history of taxes. Originally, in places like England and the US, income taxes were sold to the public as a Robin Hood idea, right? Take from the rich and give to everyone else. So naturally, the public voted for it. But eventually, the government's appetite for tax grew, and the laws were expanded to heavily tax the middle and working classes instead. The truly wealthy, however, use their financial IQ as a shield to legally protect themselves from this immense tax burden. So how do the rich actually operate differently to maintain this shield? Well, first, they build and own businesses. A corporation isn't just a big building with a fancy logo. It's the ultimate legal tax structure that standard employees simply don't have access to. Second, they don't try to know it all. They hire expert accountants and lawyers. Third, they use these corporate structures to proactively and legally mitigate their tax burden. And finally, instead of upgrading their lifestyle with every single extra dollar, they reinvest those corporate profits to buy even more assets. I absolutely love this quote from the material because it reveals such a powerful secret. The intelligent person is the one who hires people smarter than they are. The author points out a pretty harsh reality. Many highly educated people, like brilliant accountants and skilled lawyers, spend their entire days solving complex problems for the rich, making the rich even richer. But then they go home and struggle with their own personal finances. The truly wealthy don't get bogged down in the minutia. They build an expert team to navigate the complex history of taxes and corporate law for them, so they can focus strictly on growth. Just contrast the extreme limitations of the employee with the power of the business owner. The text highlights a stark structural reality about how money actually flows. As an employee, you earn money, you get taxed heavily right off the top, and then you try to live on whatever's left. Basically, the harder you work, the more you are taxed. But a business owner operating through a corporation plays by entirely different rules. They earn money, they spend what they need to run and expand the business, and they are taxed only on what is left over at the very end. It's a fundamental difference, and it's what paves the way for limitless passive income. But to make that jump from employee to business owner or from saver to investor, you have to undergo a massive mindset shift regarding risk. The middle-class mindset is built on security. It's this deep fear of losing a stable, predictable paycheck. We are literally taught in school that making mistakes is a terrible thing, but the wealthy perspective is that failure is just a necessary learning opportunity. The text emphasizes that people who avoid failure ultimately avoid success. You have to embrace risk, calculate it, and definitely not run from it. To illustrate this, the text points to real estate tycoons like Donald Trump, noting how they can lose millions of dollars, yet bounce back and recover absolutely everything. How do they lose millions without totally panicking? Well, the answer is financial knowledge and confidence. When you have high financial IQ, you know you have options. True wealth isn't just the physical cash sitting in a bank account. It's the experience and the tools in your head that allow you to rebuild it no matter what's happening in the broader economy. Ultimately, the lack of money is not a problem, it is a mindset. This is a core takeaway that you really need to internalize. If you view money from a mindset of scarcity and fear, avoiding failure at all costs, you will always be a slave to earning it. But if you view it from a mindset of abundance, seeing failure as a stepping stone and money as a tool, you begin to break out of the rat race. Taking calculated risks, especially early in life so you have time to recover, is an essential step to building your financial resilience. So let's distill all this economic theory into a concrete, balanced action plan. Based directly on the texts we've analyzed, here are the proactive steps you can take today to change your financial trajectory. Step 1. Prioritize buying assets before you buy luxuries. Step 2. Ruthlessly reduce your liabilities and unnecessary debts to the absolute minimum. Step 3. When your assets generate profit, don't just spend it to increase your consumption, reinvest it into more assets to build that virtuous circle. And step 4, continuously educate your financial mind. I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. What will you study today to become who you want to be tomorrow? The source material reminds us that you become what you study. Financial freedom is not a final destination. It's a constant, lifelong journey of learning, making mistakes, and adapting. So, take these insights, shift your mindset, treat money as a tool, and start prioritizing your financial education right now. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.